This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
Greetings, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. It's a very special installment indeed for a number of reasons, primarily because you'll be listening to a chat with one of my favourite all-time fellas to have a chat with, Levi Benton from Miss May I. What a great fella, as you'll hear throughout the conversation. The second reason is that this is episode number 666. If I was posting episode numbers, it'd have that number next to it. I thought, fuck it, why not? I'll put it in the artwork. Number 666. There have actually been quite a bit more episodes that I've posted over the years, but the amount that are currently available is that number, and I couldn't think of a better fella to share it with than Levi Benton. Now, the catalyst for the chat with Levi is due to the launch of a new album from Miss May I titled Curse of Existence. We're going to listen to a tune if you are listening via the podcast apps. This one is titled Unconquered, and once it's done, we'll dive into the conversation. If you're listening or watching via YouTube, unfortunately, we can't play music on that platform, the bloody thing. I wish I could, but I can't, because if I do, the episodes get flagged and they get taken down. That's the reason why, if you're wondering. And we'll dive into the chat right now. Either way, let's go. G'day, mate.
Hey, Andy, how are you?
Good, mate. How's
Good.
things?
I'm so sorry.
Never a drama, brother.
Rehearsals, they ran a little bit, they ran an hour longer than I thought. But hey, rehearsals are done and my ass is kicked, so I'm ready for tour.
Mate, it's never a drama. It's always great to catch up with you. We had a number of conversations in 2017, I might add, and I'll give you this feedback up top. I think it's important. I started my podcast back then, and you were about interview number 4 or 5, okay? And you did a wonderful thing, maybe without realising it, but you shared the episode on your socials, and it gave me a very early but necessary bump. I think I got something like 5,000 or 6,000 listens in the first hour or two after you did that. So I've always wanted to thank you for that.
That's awesome. Yeah, man, of course. Thank you for having me and having me again. I appreciate it. I know we don't get to make it down there that much as we used to. So anytime you guys reach out, we appreciate it.
Yeah, I have studied your career in terms of I've followed it, and I love what you do. You've been at the head of this, the tip of this spear, if you like. Actually, now let's talk about the album first before I start going a bit broader about your career, if that's cool.
Yeah,
One thing I will say is, unbelievably, if it's more serendipity, you will be episode number 666 on the show. So there you go.
Oh, yeah. I got to share that one. We got to make a special graphic for this one.
I will definitely do that. I'll send it through to you too on socials. Yeah, I'll make sure you get a copy of it, but I'll make a big deal out of 666 because this is This is album number 7, lucky number 7 for you, this new one.
Yes.
And do you think this is the definitive Miss May I statement?
You know what? That's so cool. You're the first person to ask that, and I really think it is because I think like there's like a vulnerability and like an openness and comfort that comes with being a band for so long. Mm-hmm. So for us being this band so long, we can actually like, I guess, really be ourselves without trying to push the needle. We've, I guess, always released albums that had like a ballad or a radio song or something that, not that it wasn't us, but we were just like trying to like push this needle, and we sort of maybe it was leading up to our 10-year tour and like post the 10-year tour, but like we really saw our fans and saw like what people wanted, and that took a big weight off of our shoulders because we didn't have to like try to like chase this thing that doesn't exist. It was like, oh, we just need to be ourselves. And we've had that realization after Shadows Inside. So this is our first album since that realization. And obviously the pandemic just made everything sweeter because it's like we appreciate it so much more. So not only do we feel more comfortable, but now we just appreciate it in a different way. So both of those things combining, it's just made this album such a fun time. And I think fans can really hear it. And it's actually one of our label, the owner of our label, Sean Keith, it's one of his like sayings is, if it's real, they'll feel. And I think like this album is just so real for us because there's no ulterior motive. It was just writing. Yeah, just it is our definitive point.
That's a great point you raised there. Insofar as working with SharpTone, you were on Rise there for a couple of albums, and you did really well with Rise. But it might not have been their doing. It's just that the band was hot there for the first 5 years or so, weren't you? It was really one of the bands that was you had the buzz. There's no doubt about it. But you've now matured, and there's that dreaded metalcore genre tag. Not when I say dreaded, it's like, why do these genres matter? And I know that they do, but these days, you're just a fucking killer heavy metal band. Does that marry up with some of the work and, say, some of the advice that you've been given from SharpTone?
Yeah, well, I think them giving us sort of the landscape to really do what we want to do. That was because we had offers across the board when that change happened, and SharpTone was sort of the option that had no. And it was because they were such a young label at the time, but their whole motive was to release songs and have artists have no boundaries, and just that's why they have bands like Broco, and they have thrashy bands or pop punk bands. They have it across the board because there's no boundaries, which we think is great. And yeah, I think in parallel with us moving there, sort of let us dip our toes deeper into our metal influences that are outside of metalcore. Because I feel like the metalcore coin term that we got was because of the time we came up, and it was those were our main influences, and that was our community. So it's that is who we were at, and it's not who we aren't now, but you know what I mean? We can really, the longer we are as a band, we can sort of express more of our deeper influences. Because what I was trying to explain to people is, when we did those first albums, everyone asked for the influences, and it's a lot of Ugly Dyings and Under Oath and the things you can hear through our music. But the longer our career happened and the more we got into metal, we started diving into what did Under Oath get, what got them into being a band? What did As Laid Down? You look deeper into the influences, and you start finding this whole world of metal and just music that you didn't know existed. And it's from your influences. And once you get to that layer of the onion, it's so much fun, because then you're understanding why your heroes are doing the things they do. Yeah, and I think that's where we are now as a band. There's a lot of In Flames, At the Gates, Darkest Hour, all these influences on this new album, where those were influences of bands that we were influenced by. Yeah, just a deeper dive, sort of. But that's who we are, I think.
Yeah, I can definitely hear the Gothenburg, and it's awesome. It's killer. So, so did you, in terms of the personnel, are the same personnel present on this album as, say, on Shadows Inside, and what did the musicians contribute?
So wait, sorry, one more time.
So Shadows Inside, your previous album, did you carry over the same lineup, or has there been changes?
Oh yeah. So we did two producers. That was our first album doing two producers. We brought one back and we changed another one up. The same band members. So yeah, same writing as members, but we did change it up with producers for the vocals and overall producing. We brought in Will Putney and still kept Nick Sampson for instruments, and we just thought that would bring a whole. Will's got a very dark, real vibe to him in the albums he puts out, and that's something we've never really dipped our toes into, and we really wanted to do that and have a producer that would sort of rip that out of us, because that's how we choose producers, is obviously off their discography you can see where their strengths are, and if that's something you really want to play with on an album, those are the guys. That's how we approach guys.
Gotcha. And we've touched on it, the Gothenburg thing. So that was obviously a strategy. You wanted to go in that direction, and you wanted to do something, and you wanted to dive deeper into aspects of this music that you love that you hadn't done before. Does that sound about right?
Oh yeah, that's exactly it. And it's it's not even. It's funny that we didn't do it. It was just. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. It was the just the vulnerability and comfort. We weren't. I don't think I could have had on our second album or something when I was 18 on Warped Tour, I couldn't have thrown in an In Flames influenced song. It was just not the right time. But it's so cool. It's actually funny too. The album you're listening to right now, or the one that is going to be coming out, it was actually a lot more Euro and Swedish, and we actually had a label. It was the first time we've ever got sent back. So the label sent us label management. They were like, "We love this. We love where we're going, but there's a couple albums that need to be in between." And I think it's because we had so much time off that we were just writing and writing and writing, and it was like a 5-year stretch, but there should have been an album in the middle. So we sort of pumped the brakes a little bit, but it's exciting because I can't wait to go back to the studio because the little things we did sprinkle in there is what fans are most excited about. And I was like, wait till you hear what we can really do. Like, it's going to be really fun.
It is really fun. I love what you've done with this album here, Curse of Existence. It was a loaded statement up top there about it being the definitive Miss May I statement. But what it does do, a lot of bands, you're 7 albums deep, but I feel like it's only just now, as great as many of the previous albums have been, and I'd still enjoy Shadows Inside, I should say. But I feel like as though this is the album that sets yourselves up for the future, is in terms of you've already had a great career, but this is the one that consolidates it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's how we feel internally too. It's like, yeah, it's which I know it's weird to say that, but like with an album cycle and stuff, there is like an aura and energy it brings when you're jumping into it. And I've been on stressful album cycles that lasted years, and I've been on hyped up ones and ones that were easy. And this one is just so comfortable and it feels so us. And yeah, I'm very happy that you said that, because that's how it feels. It feels like we finally are like hitting our stride. And it is funny that it's so late in our career, but it's also, we started so young. We'll meet some bands and it blows their mind that we've been doing it for almost 15 years.
Yeah. You may have touched on this already, but was the pandemic and the lockdowns and the inability to tour, that sort of thing, I've spoken to other members of bands, and they've told me that it's brought them to their knees because they couldn't tour. Was that the same for you?
Oh man, yeah, it's the lowest low we've all for sure been in as a band. And that's not even as a band blanket statement. That's all individual members, and everyone was going through their own really, really hard times. And I've obviously known these guys for more than half my life, and it was definitely the darkest time. And we went through some crazy stuff, our half of our lives together. So yeah, and that was obviously going into the studio after all of that. It's hard to not want the album to be about that, but then you also have to have the perspective when you're going to the studio that everyone's going through this, and you don't want to write that pandemic album that's just going to sort of be locked in time. So it's you had to like be thoughtful as well while you're writing, but then you're also just trying to shake it off. Like you're still in it. So it was definitely it was a mind fuck for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't good right across the board. It was bloody awful for the most part, but thank God we're coming out of it, and we're starting to see a lot of bands are coming out. Like you've probably heard, talking about Gothenburg, the new Halo Effect album, the guys that were in Flames, what they're doing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and your album here too, man. There's been some fucking outstanding albums released this year. So we can only hope, mate, that these tours and the festivals and stuff start coming down to Australia. I know they're starting to kick off a bit, but I'm talking about the metal ones, the real ones. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I appreciate that.
Look, there's a point I wanted to raise because I just find it's very interesting, this one here. So it's a bit of a longer one, but here I go. Look, I noticed that Shadows Inside peaked at 176 on the Billboard 200, which is well down from where Deathless peaked in 2015, which itself was down from where Rise of the Lion peaked in 2014. Yet you've got increased fan engagement. Your tours have probably never been bigger. And frankly, you're a better band. You're writing better material. Now, charts, they're not meaningless because they reflect sales. And it's all about the dollars at a certain level. Understand that. But you've got a killer fan base set, and your socials presence is strong. You've got it all going on. Do you discuss things like chart performance within the band and the label?
We used to, and I think probably Deathless era was where the conversation started internally with labels and managements across the board of like, hey, this might not be, because Deathless was coming out right when streaming was coming out. And we started having the conversation of like, this could like not this could change everything because this number might not mean a lot. And it took a little bit because that number, I know the press picks it up and all the fans can talk about it, the fans that care about that stuff, but that number, it also means a lot for the shows you get booked on, the tours you get on, the amount of your rate that you're getting a show. So the other question was like, when will it catch up with what those numbers actually do for the economy of music? And I think it took I think Shadows Inside was still a conversation, but this album, it was a definitely like, it's sort of numbers we don't look at anymore because it's so skewed because that's just not where we are anymore. I have all our Billboard plaques in my office, and I joke with friends of how I'm going to show my kids those plaques and be like, there used to be this thing that you had to care about with these sales. And like, cause it's cool. Cause on the charts, it's like this man, and you see Usher and Frozen soundtrack and all these like ridiculous things that came out those same times. And it was an exciting thing. And you see the number and you're just like, wow, that many people bought it. But it's like, that was like a time to be alive. It's on its way out. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I thought, wow, that basically means at this point in time that chart performance doesn't have any correlation to a band's success. This might be the first time that I've noticed it, but it also could be the first time that's actually the case.
Yeah, I don't even know anyone the only people I think that are playing that game are the pop world, and I think they're only playing it because they're the only ones playing it. Like, I don't think it's. I think once they start, I guess, not really taking it with as much weight as it used to have, then that'll be the really interesting thing, is when no one's really paying attention anymore to that, and everyone's focus is on streaming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, just talking about the direction that the band might go in the future. Now, I've mentioned that I just classify you guys as a killer heavy metal band at this point in time. But do you feel the same way insofar as working with producers? So a bloke like Jens Brogren, I think, could just do Will's done a fantastic job here too, mate. Please don't mistake my feelings about that. I think it's a wonderful sound. But a guy like Jens Brogren, have you thought about working with him or an Andy Sneap?
Yeah, they've all been on our list. It honestly is how it really goes out. I'm not in that much of the final call on that, because I will coin this now that I have like infant ears. When I go in, I'm just like, I want it to be loud and awesome. Like, everyone's like talking about hertz and mixing. I'm like, I just want it to be loud. Like, that's like all I care about. But yeah, they've come up on the lists. And I think it's just something that we're working towards. We always do change it up if anyone, other than like some of the albums that we were really just trying to make an impression and we were with Joey Sturgis, we've always mixed it up on purpose. So I think, it's just in due time that we'll make our way to those guys. And I would love to, because with their discographies, just to see what they could pull out of us. Because that's like, I feel like a producer's like squeezing the juice out of an orange or a lemon. You get something different every time.
Yeah. Did Will help with the songwriting at all, or was he more just about the sonics?
No. He helped a lot. So he mainly just worked on the vocals and lyrics. So he was the first person we really let dive in and be hands-on with lyrics. We've never had that before, but we were in such a just bad state at the time that he sort of we needed him more than ever, because there was no positive resolution on all the songs, which for Miss Man, we've always wanted to be like an uplifting and somewhat positive metal band, or we want you to end the album feeling like you took a shot of espresso and you want to take on the world. Like, that's what we wanted. And the songs were only 90 or 80% of the way there. The story was there, but we couldn't see the bright side because we were just in a funk. And it was awesome because we didn't know we were in a funk until Will was like, take a step out, look on the inside. And we're like, oh my gosh, we are really bummed out. And then it was sort of like a therapeutic exercise to go back and finish our songs and the way we've always finished this May songs. And it was funny because we have versions of the album before that and we have versions after, and that literally overnight just made it a Miss May song. Like we're like, it's missing something. What is it? And then Will's like, you need to look at this perspective again. Like, this is you guys. It's just not there right now. And then we went back to the drawing board, did that, and then we played back the song. And like, oh, that's us. I can hear it.
Awesome. Mate, this chat is over way too quickly, but I've got one more question for you before I let you go to the next one, if that's cool. Surely to goodness, you want to come down to Australia. So has there been talks about when you might be coming down with the band?
There has been talks. We have 2 new little ones coming to the Miss May I family early next year. So I know it probably won't be early next year, but I would hope I know on this album cycle it's in the conversation. So I know on Shadows we were trying to swing down there on our Asia run and it didn't really work like we wanted it. So yeah, we'll definitely. I'm hoping the end of next year or early 24.
Mm-hmm. Love your work, mate. Thank you for the chat. It's awesome. Can't wait to see you guys down here.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure, mate.
Episode 666. This is great. Yeah.
It is, mate. Episode number 666. And honestly, if I was going to pick anybody, mate, you'd be in the top 5. You know what I'm saying? So
thank you.
You're definitely one
I'm
of the blokes.
I'm in a car, so sorry there's
there you are.
not much video. Yeah.
All good. Yeah, no, that's great, mate. No, well, it's onwards and upwards for you guys, and it's. I haven't seen you guys yet. I missed you guys when you came down. Like I think I heard you before. You around some kids, mate. I got young kids, and it's just hard to bloody get out. But I do look forward to catching
I
up,
understand.
mate. Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Next time we're down there, let's do this again.
Absolutely, brother. Thanks very much again, mate.
Hey, anytime. I'll talk to you soon.
Catch you, mate. Okay. Cheers. Yeah. Bye. There he is, Levi Benton from Miss May I. What a fantastic fella. I always look forward to the potential for a chat with Levi whenever there's a tour or an album coming out. It's been quite a while, it must be said, but The Curse of Existence, it is available now. A killer album. That band, as I said through the chat, is just getting better. Now, if you like that chat, there are plenty more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com, and something else, potentially even better, is that if you like listening, maybe you like reading, and I've released a book, click the link in the banner on the website and you'll be taken to a marketplace of your choice, and you can download a sample, and if you complete the purchase, you buy a bloody thing. Please hit me up because I want to thank you personally, and there's a little bit more information about the book coming up, but before we get to that, I want to bid you a fond farewell. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. Until next time, it is a very goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
My name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot. And
we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.